Hello and welcome for match 3 with Rug Delver. We are on the play against someone who I believe tends to play pretty unfair decks, so this is a solid hand. It's got a little bit of everything. I think we've lost to Utley 26 almost every single time we've played them, so yeah. I remember beating them once when I was playing Grixis Pyromancer and they were playing Dredge, but I've lost to them playing everything from like Storm to Painter to anything else. So here we could lead with Foothills or Volcanic Island. We want to lead with Volcanic because we need Foothills for green. And we have a Bolt, so if we're going to Bolt on turn 1, it's going to be from our Volcanic Island. Yeah. Alright, so we are on the board. And obviously would rather play Tarmogoyf than anything else. Looks like our opponent is playing Storm, which, you know, cool. So they Cabal Therapy us, they're going to Enforceable, they're going to hit. Surprise, surprise. And so our expectation on... Actually, there's a reason why we're going to play Tarmogoyf over Delver and Mongoose. It's because even if we flip Delver and get to attack for one more, if we drop Force Will over the next couple turns, we are going to want to be able to Force and Daze. So holding Delver means having another blue card, which is a big deal. So not a great hand against Storm so far, but we have also drawn a third of the threats in our deck. And had our best card Therapied, which, you know, is what their deck does. So, one of the advantages of playing a build with a bunch of Stifles is if you play against Storm. Because not only can you stifle their Storm trigger, which is valuable if they're playing Empty the Warrens, you can stifle their Fetchland triggers, which is a pretty big deal. So, they're Infernal Tutoring. They know we have Daze, so it's a question of whether or not we want to counter it. I think they're going to get a mana source, and I really don't want them to have another Dark Ritual, so I'm actually all in favor of countering their Infernal Tutor. Especially given, yeah, the state of their mana base, like I said. So if we bolt them down to 13, attack them down to 7, and play Mongoose, then they're dead next turn. Like, they can Therapy us all they want, but actually, we should have... Oh, no, we can't Bolt. If we had control over our mana, then we would have wanted to Bolt them instead of Mongoosing. Because Ad Nauseam from 7 is still potentially lethal. But this way, they just have to go off and can't, so we're good. We good. So, here, we've got a lot of possibilities. Vendilion Click obviously coming in. Sylvan Library, Flusterstorm, all good cards. I don't love Pyroblast because, in general, they have like 8, maybe 12 blue cards. It's just all of the cantrips. So like, we're definitely cutting all of the Lava Spikes and getting these Grafdigger's Cages in here. And so we'd rather have Cage than Pyroblast because losing to Past in Flames is pretty awful. And is like a very real thing that can happen to us. So, that's our setup. I'm trying to think if they have... They could Xantid Swarm us. Xantid Swarm would be really bad for us. How bad would Xantid Swarm be? Yeah, we probably want to not have Pyroblast and just hedge against Xantid Swarm. Just have at least a way of beating it. Alright, so pretty easy keep. We have Delver and Wasteland and Daze and Spell Snare, so just multiple threats, multiple pieces of interaction, and a Wasteland is always going to hit what we want it to hit. So we're going to lead on Delver no matter what, and hope we don't die on turn 2. Through a Daze. But yeah, this is not the sort of hand that I would... I mean, they could Therapy us. Probe Therapy would be like pretty bad for us here. So... Land, go, second main phase, cast Burning Wish. Cool. If we draw Force of Will, we can Wasteland. I don't think we can Wasteland otherwise. It will be interesting to see what they Burning Wish for, because that will give us a lot of information about the rest of their hand. Like, if they get a piece of Disruption, then it might make more sense to Wasteland. Yeah. So, they get a Thoughtseize, which I don't think they get unless they have another mana source. And since our Daze isn't going to counter this, we just want to get our threat in play. And have the ability to Wasteland plus Spell Snare plus Daze. And yeah, we are definitely Wastelanding the City of Brass. That is for sure happening. Because that cuts off our... That cuts off their Dark Ritual, which is a big deal. We do not wish to reveal Tropical Island. And we would rather not play Cage here. We'd rather just hold up Spell Snare. And happily snaring a Burning Wish, given that that's probably going to get like a diminishing returns or something. Happily flipping on Ponder. Ponder hits Ponder plus Daze. So we're going to draw the Daze, not shuffle. Probably just play Cage. I would much rather hedge now that we have a threat in play and a counter in hand. Like, I don't know what sort of messed up sequence we can lose to, but it could reasonably involve Past in Flames. Pyroblast is fine. We can dig out of this with our other Ponder, and now we have Mongoose plus Fetch Land to get us to Threshold. So not shuffling. Shuffling away the top two. And getting a Volcanic Island. Although actually, we only have one red card in our deck, so Tropical Island that is. So Grafdigger's Cage cutting off all of the Past in Flames out is pretty big. I don't know like what the range is on that versus Diminishing Returns, but just not having to worry about Past in Flames is great. And then we just fire off Dazes at the first two things that we see. Literally the first two, because we have lethal in play. And they're dead. Cool. So the reason why I was fine firing off both Dazes is because if our opponent had a ritual, they would have played the land and played it to beat Pierce or two Dazes, rather than trying to bait with Brainstorm, because if they Brainstorm and we don't counter, then they're dead in a situation where they could have otherwise beaten a card. So they're definitely looking for something, and I'm fine spiking out the card that is digging, rather than letting them draw into, you know, any number of, you know, like Mana Source plus, like Petal, Land, Ritual, and Action card. So that is, you know, a pretty favorable matchup for Rug Delver. Again, just another flavor of Storm, but this one is far more vulnerable to Wasteland, as you saw. Holding Wasteland for City of Brass was pretty important there. And, you know, getting a threat in play early and making sure that you're balancing having a threat in play with being able to cover their outs on turns where you don't have a ton of resistance. All pretty important things against combo decks. I'll be right back.